Welcome to the Greenfield Public Schools Policy Subcommittee meeting. We'll start with a roll call. Member Prietti?
Here.
Member Deneve?
Here.
And I'm Glenn Johnson-Musad, and I'm here. So call the meeting to order at 11:02. We're recording for broadcast on GCTV. If any other persons present are also recording, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Hearing none. Okay, don't see anyone here for public comment. I saw the minutes from October. Did we get the minutes from February? I might have missed it.
We did, and they were emailed. So Annie, our new school committee and admin.
There they are. Great.
Is here. She sent them on my behalf.
Excellent.
She was able to watch the video and create them for us.
Wonderful. And I'm looking at them and they are digestible even in a minute. So I appreciate that. So I would hear a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, I guess I should call a roll call. Member Deneve?
Yes.
Member Prietti?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. All right. Superintendent, if you would give us the overview
of the wellness policy, yes?
Yeah, what we're doing here with the wellness policy, yeah.
So first, does it help if I share my screen?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So one thing, let's go, all right, is that we are referring to it as the wellness program because the school committee has a policy that requires the creation of a program to implement the policy. So that's really what this represents. And Amy, I believe you've spoken to that point at meetings previously, I believe. So we'll go through, I will go through, there has been quite a bit of, grammatical cleanup.
Can you change the view, please, Christine, if you go to view and page width or something like that? No, I mean, within that document, there's a view. See, it says file edit view.
Yes. What is it you'd like to see?
Oh, maybe I'm not sure.
You want it big? Is that what you want? You want it big?
Yeah, just
I think you're looking for magnification.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
You could do fit or
yes. That's okay. What you want to see it, Glenn?
I want to see it. Now I can see it.
Give it a whirl.
Thank you.
Okay, so there are some broad areas of focus for the district to support wellness district-wide. These are some general things. I'm not going to go through all of this. You folks have this. Most of this is very much the same as what you got in the materials for this subcommittee meeting. Like I said, there's been a little bit of cleanup around grammar and things like that. Nutrition guidelines speaks to the health pieces that we follow, the lunch services. A couple of points for discussion. Vending machines are not available during the school day. So if they have been, they won't be. So that's part of the guidelines from DESE and all of our health and wellness connections that no vending machines allowed during the school day. All of this is about, serving meals that follow the National Food Service program, National School Lunch and Breakfast programs. There are a lot of things that we will strive to do, but there are some things that I think I'm going to point out to you folks that I think might raise an eyebrow. because even though they've been in the health and wellness program, I'm not sure that they've actually really been enforced, which we're going to need to. The first being no food as rewards. Basically, in this program, we're talking about the fact that we are not going to have food in classrooms for birthday celebrations, holiday celebrations. So parents or guardians will not be able to send in cupcakes for the class to celebrate the child's birthday or things like that. They shouldn't be doing it now, but this reinforces that. So that's, I think there may be some reaction to it, but as long as, administratively, we know that the committee supports the work that's identified in this program, then, I think that's the important thing from an administrative standpoint. So all of this, again, that will have water available. The other thing that's going to be a little bit of a difference is that we are saying in this that we're not going to market food items that don't comply with the snack standards and basically the National School Lunch Program. So that means we will not be advertising the Butter Braid fundraiser. It can go home, it can happen, but we're not going to put posters up in school anymore about butter braids because that doesn't follow the guidelines. So, I mean, you folks have to decide if this is what you want. I'm telling you what it says.
I'm at a disadvantage because I'm not a parent. What?
Oh, butter braids, Glenn. Listen, those are good. They're pastries, frozen pastries. And you defrost them, you put them in the oven, and they're like fruit-filled Danish. But it's a thing.
Yeah, they're highly processed, which is why they taste so good. Yes.
They do taste good, I gotta say.
I unmuted though, just to quickly interrupt that in my experience with both of my kids, there have not been food rewards in the classroom at any level. We've never had that. We've always known that was the rule. So I don't think that piece will be too big of an issue.
I think maybe for our families coming into the district, preschool, kindergarten, that might be a little bit of a change, but I'm glad that folks who sort of start here, stay here are familiar with it. Okay. The other thing I guess I'd like to point out is this program is really regulation, procedure. It's not really policy. So I guess you folks would have to talk about whether you vote or not. But I think, when Melissa and I spoke about it, the committee as a whole, making a decision if you're going to support it, I think is something I would appreciate if you would consider, so that everybody knows that the school committee is in support of these steps. I think that would be helpful, but just point for discussion. Okay, so
I see Elizabeth's hand up. Elizabeth, do you have a question?
I do. I was wondering, when you were talking about butter braids and such and food rewards, how does that work with Valentine's Day? Because I know that's a big thing. Also, does that also cover that, or are they not going to be doing that anymore?
No food for Valentine's Day. Shouldn't be doing it now.
Okay, just a question because I know that's a big one too. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's a big one. So the allergy precautions, these are things that we do. We're talking about being not safe in the Greenfield schools. So we will have nut-free areas in each cafeteria. Students cannot share food. And then certainly we have, if there are classrooms where there are allergies, we do communicate with families about your child in this classroom can't bring nut foods to school. But on the whole, our district is nut safe, not nut free. Then celebrations and rewards. So this impact, ice cream social for honor roll at the high school would be gone. They could do it after school. That certainly could happen. They could do it after school. We could give certificates for an a la carte purchase through the food service department if we wanted to honor our students at the high school who got honor roll. There are things that we can do, but we could not do the ice cream social that is as it is currently held. I mean, Amy, I know you were on the subcommittee, so you yell if I'm saying something that's different than the discussion, but
no, that's all accurate. It also noted that on the subcommittee, it was never discussed in that way. There was not that level of discussion about that specifically.
I did, all the building administrators had multiple opportunities and reminders to review this. So they should have. So there will be food for curriculum related activities will still be permitted. Taste of world cultures is still something that can happen. If a elementary classroom is reading about a different country and the teacher wants to do a food tasting from that area of the country to enhance the unit, that's the type of thing that could still occur, working with the school nurse, Greta, to support that. But outside of that, no classroom celebrations will have food. We also have an insurance issue if people bring food in from outside. People who provide food to the schools, their insurance would actually be liable if something happened. It would be on the person who sent the food. So I would certainly, I would not want to take on that responsibility. So the other thing is there's some physical elements that we're supporting. Recess every day at the elementary and middle schools. On full days, we don't do recess on early release days, but we're not doing them now. Speaking to collaboration with the city to make sure that our recess spaces are meeting safety standards. I don't know if you folks realize, but the rec department does all of the wood chips for our playgrounds. They do the equipment on our playgrounds, and DPW does the lawn and yard maintenance, so to speak, for all schools except the high school. We pay for a private vendor to take care of the lawn at the high school. But and then, of course, we want to make sure that our students who have disabilities can participate in all of our recess and physical activities. PE, we do require PE up through and including high school as a graduation requirement. So that is not being changed. There's no replacement for PE. We don't recognize any other activity for PE requirements. And these are the standards, national PE standards, other activities that promote student wellness, that we'll try to do things before and after school that encourage physical activity, healthy eating, being mindful and promoting not using vapes or electronic cigarettes, and then strive to have joint use agreements with community partners. We do with the rec department, for example. And then the integration of the social emotional competencies and continuing to work to have all of our staff implement the social emotional learning competencies, excuse me, and to integrate those into curriculum when able, which we are able. And then to support cultural and linguistic diversity. I think one of our best examples of that is Taste of World Cultures. So we continue to do that. We also, another example of this is working with our, there was a sports banquet where families actually cooked and brought in food. And Mike Kacheski, our athletic director, worked with Chef Yappy at the high school to ensure that students from the Days Inn, who do represent different cultures, had the ability to cook, to contribute to that banquet if they chose to. And then some general health services. This speaks to a lot of our nursing support, health information going out. I'm sure you have all seen information about our dental program and vaccine clinics. So that's all something related to this. Staff wellness. This is something you likely have not seen, that we do send out information about wellness programs through the health insurance. And there are other benefits such as discounts on gym memberships, things like that, that all come through the insurance. And Greta actually has a very nice staff lunch program. It's for a cost, but staff can order a variety of healthy food choices on a daily basis. And I have partaken many times, and they are very good and for a very reasonable price. Physical
school committees that members ever come and participate in that?
They haven't, Glenn, but if you want a meal, we will get you the menu.
I want to have lunch with you sometime.
You absolutely can. You tell me. Listen, though, I'm going to tell you, if it's nugget and tater tot day, I'm eating a kid lunch. So
okay.
I will say I do eat kid lunches. I said that when I got here, that I would eat student food, and I do. And it's good.
Yeah.
So, physical environment, really, this is all things. I appreciate that it's reiterated, but it really is required that we have health and safety process and protocols, and that we have to monitor air quality and ventilation and all of that. As you know, we have to be tobacco free. You've heard quite a bit
again, Christine, sorry. I just noticed Elizabeth has her hand up. Could we suspend our normal laws of rules of order and just have an informal conversation? And Elizabeth, if you want to pipe in, you can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was wondering why, if you could tell me why we do not allow substitutions for PE, such as sports and other activities.
I don't know. I don't know if Karen knows the history of that, but what I can tell you clearly is that the Health and Wellness Committee did not want to substitute. Karen, do you know any history? Wait.
I can't hear Karen.
You.
Uh-oh.
Christine, you need to mute if Karen's going to talk at her computer.
No, she's talking at my computer.
I wasn't talking, so you weren't missing anything. Historically, probably I'd say 6 or 7 years ago, we did have this conversation at the high school in consideration of changing grad requirements. However, at the time, there was very few equitable athletic schedules that we thought would meet the PE requirements with DESE. So you pretty much had to be a 3-sport athlete or do something all year long in order to equate to the DESE guidelines and regs. Or, you know, marching band was only for, 8 events or something. And the hours that you're required to have physical activity just didn't equate. And we could never figure out how to make that work so that it was equitable to a PE requirement. So, I mean, you certainly could revisit graduation requirements, but currently the way they stand, there is no substitution because the equitability of what the activity was didn't actually meet the hours from DESE.
I understand. This came up at the YELO conference. This was one of the things that the kids really wanted to talk about, was having the option to look at PE substitution. So I want to make sure that I understand why, and maybe figure out a way that we can have a follow-up conversation so that they know that we've looked into it and understand it, and so that they understand it. So maybe there's like a little bit of outreach we could do there or something, but that came up so much. So I wanted to find out, because I know that we don't have a state law that says that we cannot do substitutions. So I don't know if there's some literature that we can pass on or data we can collect, to pass on to the community on that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just important that we're clear about what the administration will do and what the school committee will do. So when we say we mean the administration would address that. If we want to change the policy or look at that, that's the school committee role. But in terms of the communication with the students and everything, that would be the superintendent's domain.
Thank you for the clarification. One of the questions I was going to ask was, Elizabeth, did the students actually indicate that they had talked with Derek about this question? Because he has not brought it to me, suggesting to me they've not talked to him.
That's a really good question. And I'm not sure about that, because that's a question that I was always asking them. Have they gone up the chain of command properly and made their desires known? And so I don't know if they have, and I think that they feel a little unsure about how to do that. That always comes up too. So it could be that they really wanted and don't know how to voice it, or maybe they tried to and it didn't work, or I don't really know. So that's why I'm just putting it out there, because that was a really strong request, and I want to make sure that I can say that I've gone through this list and I understand it, but I mean, I don't know that they would.
I'll follow up with Derek. Students generally know how to get in touch with one of the administrators at the high school, but I will follow up administratively about that question.
I mean, what's nice about yellow is it kind of creates this zone where the students feel like, okay, this is the place where I can talk and be heard. And, sometimes I think it's harder when you have to take the initiative yourself as a student to talk to an adult about something where the answer could be yes or it could be no. And so it's difficult to initiate that conversation sometimes, but hopefully they will.
Sure. But I will follow up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other, or am I good to zip through physical environment?
I think you're good.
Okay. So the physical environment, we had talked about some of these things are required, like tobacco-free buildings and grounds. We have our safety protocols. You've certainly heard plenty of that. So facilities management, Mike Boudreau works with principals every day about the building, environment and building related issues. Prohibit advertising on school property of foods and beverages not available for sale in the district schools. Again, that kind of goes back to some of the fundraiser restrictions. And even a recommendation from this subcommittee to avoid participating in fundraisers that don't support the message that's consistent with this. So that would be, do we do the Butter Braid fundraiser? I think PTOs would have an opinion on that, because my perception is they're rather lucrative. So again,
well, the way it's written is recommend, right?
Correct. Intentionally.
Yeah. So it's not really about saying absolutely not, no, how, never. It's just saying this is the recommended best practice, right?
Yeah. And, the question could be had is a PTO fundraiser really the school? Because it is a separate entity.
Yeah.
So just a point for discussion.
But the school would be participating in it, right?
What we do is give the information to students to take home to deal with outside of school.
Yeah, so I guess that's the part where we are participating in it by giving them information about it.
We participate. Well, yeah, I mean it's a thin because we send information home about a lot of things that aren't
Okay.
sponsored events. But yeah, I appreciate the sort of the discussion about what that really looks like. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so family engagement, we want families, we want parents, community members to sit on the wellness committee. There's a requirement that the wellness committee meet intermittently every school year and do an assessment of our wellness program every 3 years. So we'll continue to look for families to serve on that. Just again, communication, desires, things that we will strive for. This is the accountability piece that every 3 years that we would review, make sure we meet the requirement. There is the hyperlinks are live. So that's helpful. And then policy and program updates. So really the wellness committee would be making recommendations to the superintendent and the policy subcommittee about any changes that need to be considered for the wellness policy.
How does the food reward policy, maybe this has nothing to do with it, but what about, for example, the PTO wants to do teacher appreciation and are thinking of a coffee bar for teachers. Does that then not, is that not okay? Is that?
This wellness is not about staff.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We encourage healthy behaviors from staff, especially in school. But I think, you know, the PTO sponsoring, you know, coffee, and maybe the PTO would think about doing fruit and whole grain muffins instead of donuts and Danish or something to that effect, and you'd be super in line. But this really does not affect adults. So that's it. That's the end. There's some resources linked at the end, which I think are helpful. And that's it. I mean, I don't want to say that's it. That's a lot of work, and it's a lot of reflection about our practices that need to be clarified and shared. And can I stop sharing, or do you want to look at anything else? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
It's fine with me. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I might need a little refresher. So on our February 14th meeting, when we voted on the wellness policy, that was before these revisions, or was that a different policy?
No, it was this. It was what we've redubbed as the program. You know, further conversation about, unless this group would like to change what's in the policy manual and replace it with this, but you know, this is really implementation as opposed to, I don't want to say theory, that doesn't sound right. But more of the belief system. This is more the implementation. So,
yeah. So then, let's see, the school committee voted on it in February. Now there's some changes. So it's the question, I guess we're hearing kind of like two questions. One, we don't vote on it. We basically, it's not really vote to approve, but vote to endorse or support the superintendent in carrying out the program. And then do we need to essentially do that again because there have been some changes since the last meeting, since it was last voted on?
You can. I don't think the changes were substantive. 95% of the changes were grammar.
Okay.
You know, just making lists of things have the same tense and things like that. So 95% of it was grammar. There were a few things that we took out, like there had been a line in there saying that staff had access to the wellness equipment in the schools before and after school. We don't see a functional way for that to actually happen. I don't know how elementary or middle school teachers would have access to the high school fitness equipment at random hours. So we, when I say we, that was Melissa and I sat and went through and just looked at some things that had been recommended, but weren't necessarily functional like that. We took out lines that were redundant in like 4 places. It said that we'd provide health related information to families. So we took those out in a couple places, left it in one. But those, I mean, but certainly we can resend it out. You could do a new first read if that's what you folks prefer to do.
Well, again, we did it as part of the consent agenda and not as like an official first reading of a policy. And I think that kind of makes sense because it's not actually a policy. So it won't require the 2 readings and everything like that. I just want to, maybe because it was in the consent agenda, I don't know if we really broadcasted our support enough for it, which seems to be part of what I'm hearing from you that you would like from us, or is that, could we just here at this meeting just vote to endorse it and share that as a report of the policy meeting at the next meeting or something like that? What works for you in terms of basically getting the backup you need from the school committee on this?
I think whichever part, if having it as a report under policy and then a group endorsement makes it stand out, that would be great.
Great. Okay. Well then, I move that we as the policy subcommittee endorse the health program as presented by the superintendent.
So moved.
Okay, I got a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right. Any discussion?
I have a couple of things.
Yeah.
So this is not directly related, but regarding the conversation around the sports and being able to count as PE. So you mentioned grad requirements, Christine. You have to refresh my memory. Is that a school committee thing, setting graduation requirements?
It's a policy.
Yeah, I don't know that we have, like, I don't think we've done that on an annual basis. Like, we've never talked about grad requirements in my experience on school committee. So that's just kind of a question. I don't want to do anything with it. It sounds like there's more information from the students and a discussion with the principal that really should be the starting point. But it brought up for me, graduation requirements, like what do we do with those? How often do we look at that?
We have not had a reason to request the school committee vote to change them.
Sure.
But I would expect that has not been part of one of the sections yet. So
yeah, okay, that was my follow-up question.
Yes.
All right. And then thank you. And then similarly, I know the discussion that we had at the wellness committee was that the school committee could either create a wellness policy that says we endorse this program, or if we already have it, we would revise it to make sure it reflects that. And I don't remember where we left that, and I can't, in a quick review, even find something that we have that exists that addresses wellness, but I'm probably wrong.
We have a wellness policy. It was.
And I'm not trying to quiz anyone to find it or anything.
No, there's a link in this document to the school committee policy.
Oh, great. Okay.
Looking.
Okay.
It's fairly generic and basically says oh, well, there was a link in this document and we
I
can
was gonna
relink
say I
it.
didn't see it, but I definitely could have missed it. Let me.
No, there is a policy that speaks to wellness. And I will look for it. The title of it is School District Wellness Policy.
Do you remember what section it was in? I never can figure out the sections. They don't correspond to anything that makes sense.
No, right now it's
Okay.
a mishmash too.
That's
So,
okay. All right.
I'll send it out to the three of you and I'll link it back in here. It's pretty generic and
Generic enough that like we probably already covered in terms of should we review it and make sure it.
I don't believe it's in a section that's been reviewed already. So
Even better, we'll find it. We'll find it on our journey. That is fine with me.
Yeah, generic enough that it says the school committee will ensure that we implement health and safety guidelines or something that generic.
Okay, and then I just have, thank you for that. And I just have one last thing, and it's just a little bit of kind of political stuff, you know, and mainly towards Chair Johnson-Musad. I am revisiting often still the way that city councilors addressed the school committee budget at the last city council meeting. And I applaud you the way you handled it. And this to me, one of the things that I haven't resolved yet in terms of the commentary from city councilors is in regard to when I was in school in the Greenfield public schools, we only had a principal. We didn't have assistant principals. And this whole process and the wellness program and all of the things that DESE requires around this are yet another piece of why we are often feeling like there is this real tug between, you know, saying, oh, we're top heavy, or, you know, we have too much administrative staff, and also being confident as a district that we are meeting regulations and requirements and able to also leverage those things to ask for the resources that we need for our students. And I just am really you know, hearing a counselor talk that way and then seeing what we are going through regularly and what the administration goes through regularly to meet DESE should tell you everything you need to know. And then I'll stop politicking about all of it. That was the last thing I wanted to say, and thank you for the time.
Thank you for your comments. Any other discussion before we vote on the endorsement motion? I guess I'm just gonna opine a little bit. It's kind of interesting. I could definitely see where we're going, and you know, it makes so much sense to me to separate like celebrations from food, and there's students who can't eat certain foods, and you know, there's ways that it reinforces unhealthy behaviors and all that. At the same time, these things are so deeply woven into our culture. I think sometimes it takes a longer time than just writing up a program and just immediately, you know, it seems like our community is probably stretched enough by the no cupcakes thing before we start tackling butter braids. You know, it's like just kind of taking the community, meeting them where they are and taking it one step at a time, I guess. So now I want to try those butter braids very badly, but I'm assuming they're not vegan butter braids. Okay.
I appreciate your thought, Glenn, and I think that we can, I think the wording in some of the sections regarding strive to,
yeah,
just recommend, we're fairly intentional.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's great.
Yeah. And I was quickly trying to find the health and wellness policy, and of course I can't. No, I know, but we'll find it.
I couldn't either, so. It makes
someday
two of us.
soon it will be also easily accessible and searchable.
Shortly, yes.
All right. Are we ready to vote, my friends? Okay. Member Prietti,
Yes.
Member Deneve,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So our endorsement passes. Thank
Thank
you. And
you.
thanks to everybody for their hard work on this.
Okay, we'll put it on the school committee agenda for Wednesday.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. And with that, I think I would hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Member Prietti,
Yes.
Member Deneve. I keep wanting to
Yes.
say Member Amar.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't get that to change, but yes.
And I'm Member Johnson Musad, and I'm a yes. And we are adjourned at 11:42.